I think your latest records. I mean, for every record I heard from Depeche Mode, it's gonna be more and more exciting, more experimental, and so on. Can you tell me about that?
Um, yeah, as the years have gone by, we've always just tried to keep it exciting for ourselves, keep it interesting for ourselves, and so with every album, we just develop and do new things, and I think we've explored the pop field really a lot, and I think as time goes by, we just get more experimental.
Yeah. But how can you get these influences, ideas? I mean, the sound is very, very modern and interesting.
Yeah, I think we're able to use the technology that's available very well. There's we moved into the sampling field around the time of construction time again, and we've just carried on sort of just trying new things in that field with every album and every single, and it seems to be, for us anyway, we find it the most interesting field to work in.
From do you discover the new sounds? Do you get it from the streets and wow, that's gonna be heavy too, or
Mm.
is it when you're sitting with a synthesizer and try and what?
um, Sometimes it's not exactly from the street, or sometimes it is. We might go out with a tape recorder and just record a few things, but mainly we just look around in the studio. For instance, if we want a hi-hat kind of sound, then we'll think about it for a while, and then maybe someone suggests going to the kitchen and getting out the cutlery, and then we bang a couple of knives together and get a good hi-hat sound.
Yeah.
And just think, when we travel around, I buy a lot of um, instruments, just instruments from around the world, like
Mm-hmm.
sort of from Hong Kong, a Chinese violin, just
Yeah.
as small thing, just take it back,
Yeah.
and it's and a lot of toys. You go to a toy shop and find some interesting, children's toys, and you sample them, and they sound really good. You can get really good sounds from them.
Like what? Can you give an example of a good toy?
A toy piano.
uh,
Toy piano was one of the main sounds, say, for the instrumental in Master and Servant. There was one called a clarina,
uh-huh.
which was just um, a small children's sort of a blown instrument.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know if that's very famous, the clarina. But, we used it a few times on records because it just got a really good mellow sound.
Yeah.
Because when you sample things, they sound a lot. For some reason, they can come back sounding a lot more interesting anyway. And lately, we've been sampling quite a lot of real instruments as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of guitar samples on the latest album.
But you're not going back to use ordinary guitar again.
Don't think so. No. There's a As I said before, when you sample sounds, they can come back sounding a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
A guitar, if you play a guitar, it sounds like a guitar. And that may suit some songs, but then it's very conventional and very boring.
Tell me about when you're writing a song from the first beginning to the from the first chord to the final mix. Can
Mm.
you?
When I start writing a song, I usually sort of have one or two lines, and then I'll work on a melody with maybe first of all just using a guitar, and just get a few chords going, and then just carry on, see what follows on, and then the song sort of somehow takes structure, still just using the guitar, and then from then I'll move on to electronic equipment. At home, I've just got a really basic setup. I still use an MC4 and a few keyboards, running from the MC4, and then I'll sort of program the bass line, a few melody lines, and record it all on a Porter Studio and just carry on working on it from there.
But where have you? What do you think is the most important thing in Depeche Mode's music? Do you think it's very important in the studio when you're mixed and producing a song?
As I was saying, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I
uh,
think production is very important, and the way you go about the way you work, is very, very important. But in the end, I think it's the song that is the most important thing, the thing that attracts people initially. For me, anyway. But being a songwriter, I would say that.
When you're writing a song, where from do you get the influences? I mean, Depeche Mode today, it's not like Depeche Mode from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when we first started out, anyway, Vince was the main songwriter.
Yeah.
He wrote 9 of the 11 songs on the first album, and after he left, I think we went for a period where I was really just trying to find my feet as a songwriter. I'd never been in a position before where I had to suddenly write prolifically. Sit down and write maybe 15 songs a year or something. And at first, although I didn't really realise it at the time, I think looking back, I did, sort of struggle a bit. When when I look at, say, a broken frame, it's just a real mishmash of ideas. There's you've got I think we were going through an identity crisis. It was you got the real pop of things like Photograph of You, Meaning of Love,
Yeah.
and then there were some songs which maybe hinted to what was coming. Things like I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, that's right. It sounded wrong for some reason.
Have you any favorite bands that you are influenced by? Or what?
Not really. I've got a few favourite bands, but I don't think I'm really directly influenced by them. I think the one band you could say we were influenced by was Kraftwerk, just because of their setup, and they first got me interested in synthesizers even when I was quite young, listening to things like Autobahn and I think that started my interest in electronics, made me go out and buy my first synthesizer.
Which was?
Just a Yamaha CS5.
Uh-huh.
But we for the first year or so, that's what I used on stage when 1980, when we were still like playing small clubs. We all had just really cheap monophonic synthesizers. But it worked, and we had sort of a bad drum machine.
Is it true that you're start using synthesizers because it's more comfortable to tour with?
What do you mean?
I've heard that it was more comfortable for you to tour with synthesizers. I mean, it's
I
not.
see. Oh,
Yeah.
That was true to a certain extent, but when we first started, I always played synthesizer, but Andy and Vince, they played guitars at first, and it was a bit of a hassle because we had to arrange transport all the time, and to take the amps and all things like that. And then we suddenly realised, if we became an all electronic band, we could travel on the train just with our synths under our arms, and so yeah, in a certain way we did it because of that, but also because we were a bit bored with the guitars. They, as I said before, they always sound like guitars. No matter what you do, you can put them through an effects pedal, but then they sound just like a guitar through an effects pedal.
Yeah, that's right. When did you learn about this with synthesizers song?
Learn about
Yeah.
synthesizers.
Yeah.
Just after buying my first synthesizer, I just took it home and just played around with it. And it took me quite a while to get different sounds out of it. Even I think for about the first few months, I was playing all the songs with one sound. Minor variations on one sound.
But I mean, the equipment you use today is very, very exciting, and I think it's like a computer. I mean,
Yeah.
how long does it take for you to learn a new synthesizer today?
Depends what it is, really. Some of them, for some reason, most synthesizers have got terrible manuals. You just can't understand. They make no sense whatsoever. A lot of them are translated. Things like the PPG manual, for instance, translated from German. but it just makes no sense in English. I don't know who they got to translate the manual. And then a lot of them as well, the Japanese stuff as well. It's really difficult to follow. I think it's really handy if you know somebody who knows the synth, and they can give you a few basic instructions, and then you just carry on from there. Just like sort of experiment with it. That's the easiest way. In the studio, we use mainly a lot. We use the synclavier a lot, but on the last album, I think we used it less. Just because we got into using MIDI quite a lot, and it wasn't a MIDI interface. The synclavier wasn't MIDI interface, so we a lot of the time we programmed on the BBC Yumi computer, and just ran various synths from that. Things like the Mini Moog. We had an old Mini Moog scene to, so that it could be run from the Yumi, and things like the ARC 2600 COBOL and 100M systems. Yeah, PPG. I'm probably forgetting something important, but we use the synclavier a bit as well. Even we even use some Akai samplers. They're very quite cheap, but they work. They work quite well. We're using them on stage. One thing quite important thing I did forget is the emulator.
Yeah.
We use that really a lot on the album.
Live, what have you done?
Me and Alan used emulator 2s, and I use a PPG Play 2.3. Andy uses two Prophet 2000. And apart from that, Alan just uses some sort of Korg. But the emulators are really good. You can get most of the sounds you need onto the emulator keyboard, and you've got 17.6 seconds across the keyboard.
Yeah.
And you can split that up into as many sounds as you can fit into that time.
Have you any? Of course, you have any synthesizers at home, but something like emulator or something?
Well, when we finish touring, we just take it home.
How long do you think the development with synthesizers can help?
Well, it seems to be improving all the time, and it's I can't see it stopping. I think it's limitless, really. It's difficult to see where it will go next, but there seem to be quite intelligent people working on it, and they seem to be coming up with ideas all the time. So I trust in them. Yeah, one other thing we use live. We use the Akai samplers live, and I don't know if you saw last night. We used percussion behind us.
Yeah, yeah.
And we hit the percussion, and there's just contact mics strapped onto the percussion, and these are connected through octapads to the Akai samplers. So we can trigger different sounds in the Akai samplers.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I saw when you bang, bang, bang.
I think a lot of people think that we're miming it, because they see us hitting this piece of metal behind us, and then we get sounds like explosions coming out.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't win, really. We we try to make it interesting. People just think we're miming.
The economy. I mean, it's gonna be. Do you think it's gonna be cheaper or what?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's things are coming down in price all the time. There's a couple of years ago, Andy in particular was worried because he thought that we were alienating ourselves from our audience, because the sort of equipment we were using, because at that time we were using almost 100% synclavier, and or no, not 100%, 80% synclavier, but and he thought because the synclavier is so expensive, people just will lose touch with us, because they feel that you get fans who like your music, and they maybe have a band and things like that, but they just can't create that music. And so he was worried that we were just in an area that was too expensive for your average public. But now I think that with samplers coming down in price a lot, it's young people can form bands and make a similar sort of music. things like the Akai samplers, they're still, I don't know how much they are, but I think they're about £600 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, it's hard, the synclavier, if you want a basic synclavier setup, probably costs £50,000,
Well, it's much money for use.
Um, and things like the Prophet 2000 as well, I don't know how much that is, but it's relatively cheap.
Yeah.
Anything's relatively cheap compared to the synclavier.
Are you sponsored by Synclavier and so?
No, it's really difficult to get any of those sort of firms to go into sponsorship because they it's unbelievable how little that how few machines they sell around the world, and they're just not into doing sponsorship deals. We checked it out. We're very interested in because say people like Emulator, for instance, you'd think maybe would be interested. So we do quite a lot of we would give them quite a lot of publicity. We use them on stage every night.
Yeah.
But they I think it's just not practical for them.
But maybe when the price going down, it's gonna be cheaper. Maybe then it's gonna be interesting for them to. I mean, then the young people can buy some cheaper emulator. Do you think so?
If the price goes down, quite considerably, then I suppose young people will buy them. At the moment, say an emulator 2 is I think it's about £7,000 or £8,000. For a young kid, it's quite a lot of money.
Really? You're using the drums. They are all of them are recorded on tape.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. When we finished an album and just before we go on tour, we go into a studio and with the multi tracks, and then we just take all the pieces that we need and put them onto an 8-track TAT, and which is mainly drums and quite a lot of bass parts. And if there are any really fast sequences that we can't play live, then we put those on tape as well. The only percussion that's not on tape is the stuff that we play on. I was telling you about the Akai sampler stuff.
What's the advantage with it?
Using tapes?
Yeah.
Well, it means I think a lot of people don't, or not a lot, but quite a few people don't like the idea of us using tapes. They think that it's a bit of a cop out, but it's just so easy for us. It's not easy. That's the bad word. It's just practical. I can't see another way we could recreate our sound live. It's we spend months and months making an album, and we're very meticulous with the sound, and then somehow we have to recreate that live. And if we didn't use tapes with at least rhythm tracks and some bass parts on them, then I don't think we could do that. And
is it any disadvantage for you to using tapes?
No. Sort of we get asked this question quite a lot. There, people say you can't improvise and things like that. But when our music is not the sort of music that needs improvisation. We're not really into the musicianship thing. It's in the studio we very rarely actually play parts. We spend a month before we go actually into the studio programming, just in a small studio, programming all the songs.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got all the melody parts pre-programmed, and then we just get the computers to play those parts for us, and then you've got everything perfectly in time. And that's the way we make music in the studio. So for us to improvise live seems just doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can change the odd note here and there. I mean, the timing will be exactly the same every night, and the song order will be exactly the same every night.
Yeah. But have you the same song first and the same song?
Yeah.
You have on the whole tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is a slight disadvantage, because you do get you can get very bored at the end. By the end of a 5-month tour, you can do it asleep, really. You could be asleep and
Yeah.
go through every motion.
How long are you touring now?
Well, this is the longest tour we've ever done because we're doing the whole world in one big batch. So in all, the tour lasts about 4.5 months, and there are not many sort of days off between, say, sort of Europe and America. There's just about 3 or 4 days off.
Do you like touring?
It's at the moment I think we're quite enjoying it, but then we're only sort of about 3 weeks into the tour. We did 2.5 weeks in Britain, then we've just done about another 3 concerts out in Scandinavia. But by mid-August, I don't know if we'll still enjoy touring.
Yeah, that's right. But are you a person who prefer to work in the studio or what?
Yeah, I think our main ambition is just to make good music. So working in the studio is I think where we enjoy it most, where you get the most satisfaction. But I think it's very dangerous to become a studio band who never tours because you just lose touch. And it's really good to get feedback from fans, just meeting people when you travel around. And also, I think if you're just stuck in the studio all the time, you just run out of ideas. What do you write about? I think it's really valuable to travel around and get new impressions, and you just get a lot more ideas for new songs.
Yeah. The other guys in the band, or are they have the same? They prefer working in the studio?
I think so. When I say we prefer working in the studio, though, it's true because our main aim, as I said, is to make music. But we spent about 4 months working on the last album, and at the end of those 4 months, it does get very boring because you're stuck in sort of a studio all day. You have no social life, and you're surrounded by the same people. We had the same 7-man setup in the studio. Us four, Daniel and Gareth, co-producers, plus tape op, and then they're the only people you see for 4 months virtually. There might be a few, the odd person coming in here and there. At the end of it, you're dying to go out and just do something different. Go out and actually see people.
Yeah.
Find out if you're still capable of having a conversation.
I think you have. Tell me about your first meeting with Daniel Miller.
And, so we were always Mute fans anyway. Before we ever met Daniel, I had most of the early catalogue, things like Fad Gadget, Silicon Teens, Daff, and so we sent a tape to Mute quite early, probably in 1980, but we never got a reply. And now we know Daniel. We can imagine what happened to that tape because he's not very he's not very organised. Now I think now he's got somebody at Mute who actually listens to all the tapes that are sent. But in those days, just after we met him, we'd get into his car and there'd just be tapes all over the back seats, on the floor, covered in ash from his ashtray. And then you'd get out the door and one of the tapes that, probably someone had spent weeks working on fell out into a puddle, And we can imagine that probably happened to our tapes. But then probably, I think it was towards the end of 1980, Vince and Dave went to Rough Trade to take them a tape. And Daniel was distributed by Rough Trade, and he just happened to be there. And somebody at Rough Trade said to Dave and Vince that they quite liked it, but it wasn't really their style. And they said that Daniel was there, and maybe he'd be interested. But that day, Daniel was in a really bad mood for some reason, and the person from Rough Trade asked him, and he just walked out. He didn't even listen to it. It was on in the background, but he just stormed out. And I think he'd had an argument with somebody at Rough Trade or something.
Uh-huh.
And so again, we missed out. And then it wasn't till we got a support date at the Bridge House. This is like a small pub in London,
Yeah.
and we're supporting Fad Gadget that we actually met Daniel. And he came backstage afterwards and just started talking to us. And we told him we were playing there again the following week. So he came back down again and watched the concert, and then afterwards just offered us a one-off single deal. He said, just see how things go. And around that time, we started getting a lot more offers as well. I think sort of the electronic music was just about starting to happen.
Yeah.
It was just before it actually happened. But I think all the the A&R departments or record companies could see that it was going to be the next big thing. That's when they all started coming after us, and so it was quite a difficult choice for us to stick with Mute, because Mute is just an independent label in London. They couldn't offer us any advances or anything like that. And there were people like Polydor offering us massive advances. But Daniel just seemed like the nicest bloke, the most honest bloke. So we decided to go with Daniel.
What has Daniel meant for you? As I mean, he was very interested in synthesizer already then and so on.
Yeah. He'd already made records. The first record on Mute was TVOD and Warm Leatherette, which was Daniel, and the Silicon Teen stuff was Daniel.
That's right.
And he'd been into it for ages. I think he was an old Kraftwerk and Can and Neu fan, and he'd been into it from quite an early stage.
What does he learn you something about the synth?
Yeah, I mean, when we first met Daniel, we were still using these really basic synthesizers I told you about. It was a CS5, Moog Prodigy, I think, and a Kawai, which is just a small Kawai. I've never ever seen one since. No idea what make it was or anything. And he was able to teach us really a lot. I think that's where he's probably where he's helped us most over the years. He's just very good when it comes to synthesizers, working with them in the studio. If we're working on a sound and we might say, we want, a hard metallic kind of sound or something like that, and he can get it just like that, where it might take us, 3 hours of mucking around to get this sound. He's just really good working with synthesizers.
Tell me about the producing and so on. Are you interested to be a producer when you have finished your Depeche Mode career?
No, not really. I said before, production is really, really important, and I can see the importance of production. But I find it quite boring, to be honest. And that's why I think we work quite well as a team, because I work on my own initially, writing the songs, then I present these songs to the rest of the band, and then when it comes to production, I tend to take more of a back seat. And let's say Alan, he's really into that side of things, and so I tend to leave it to Alan and Daniel, say, who just really like working in that area. Obviously I've ideas, and I'll sit back and listen to what they do, and if there's something I don't like, then I'll tell them. But I do take a back seat.
Yeah. Have you wrote songs for other bands?
No.
Have you any questions about it?
Not really, no. There's
no one who asked you?
The odd person here and there, yeah, but nobody famous or anything. If I had more time, I probably would do it more.
Mm.
But we're just so busy that we don't have really any time for other projects.
Yeah. But if you don't start working with writing songs for other bands, do you think you're gonna write in a different way?
Possibly. I think what could happen, for instance, I think even now I've got a couple of songs that I've written, and I just don't think they're suitable for Depeche Mode. And there's one that's really, really catchy, really, really commercial, and I wrote it as a joke. It was written as a joke after spending about a week in Italy, and you just hear this Euro beat music all the time. You don't hear anything else. And then when I came home, I just wrote this song as a joke, just to play to the others, and it was just like a spoof of this Italian music. But after I wrote it, I just realised how commercial, how catchy it was, and even like Alan, who's real anti-commercial, he really likes it as well.
Yeah. But
so things like that, for instance, I could give to other people maybe if I.
But you can release them in another name.
Yeah, but time is a question of recording it properly, and we just don't have the time for those kind of things.
But don't don't you think? Do you think it's important to have this? I think Depeche Mode today is your you make what we call little dark but very beautiful music. Do you think it's important to have that style in the whole way, or I mean that you've told me about that song?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, on the next album.
Why?
Why do you don't? And the fans, wow, what's this?
Yeah. But every now and again, we do. It's true what you say. Most of our music has got this dark feel to it. But I think with Black Celebration, for instance, the mood was set by the title, and we tried to get this kind of dark this dark atmosphere for the whole album. But some of the stuff we do is really can even be called happy. So some of the B-sides where we just tend to just muck around more. I don't know if you've heard any of them.
Yeah,
Things like flexible, set me free,
yeah.
and all stuff like that. And it's that's it's another side where we do um, come out of this really dark area.
Your songs, um, you released remixes
A few
and
different
yeah,
remixes
that's right. Yeah.
of some songs. Yeah.
What's the point?
I think with 12 inches, it's quite good, for clubs especially to have a longer version, and you can make them, quite different. With some of our stuff, they've been really radically different. Stuff like Master and Servant, and People Are People. We just gave the tapes to somebody called Adrian Sherwood, and he works in a very radical kind of way, and they just came out sort of very different to anything that we'd ever done before, and so that made it quite interesting. And but when we remix things, we just try to make more of the songs, bring out feature some melodies more and things like that.
You're not living in Berlin now.
No, I moved
Back in London.
back to London, yes.
Why?
Just because my girlfriend is a Berliner, and she's lived there nearly all of her life, and she just fancied working abroad somewhere, and so we just decided to go back to London. Now she's found a job in London. She works there.
This album, Black Celebration, do you think was it inspired from Berlin?
I don't think so. I think only about half of it was written there, because maybe slightly more than half. But I moved back to London last August, and I did some of the writing in September. So some of it was written in London anyway, but probably or 3/4 of it was written in Berlin. Well, but I don't think I was directly influenced by it. It's difficult to judge. You probably are very influenced by your environment. So at the moment I've got one plan to maybe go to Spain after the tour's finished.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it could be slightly hot still, just to get a new feel, just see if it has any influence on the songs.
Have you started working with a new album?
No, we're just on tour. I can't really write on the road. I just what I do is I gather quite a few ideas and things, and just note them down in a book, and then when I get home and we have a songwriting period, and I work on those ideas.